Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Mormons, the Twin Sisters edition with your hosts, Ariane Smith
and Tiffany Hales.
December!
We made it to the end of the year.
We made it to December. Tiffany didn't think she was going to make it through last week. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes, we will.
Here's what we have to start off with, because I have been itching to bring this up again.
Oh, yes. This is kind of a follow-up to what we talked about in November when we recorded in November.
Follow-up. November when we recorded, I was griping about how our ward had a young women's activity that was like a pajama thing, watching movies in pajamas.
Yes.
And they put on the thing, wear your modest pajamas. And I was like, biggest eye roll, right?
And then your girls were like,
Yes.
They were cranky about it. They wanted to rebel and wear shorty shorts.
I was like, why do we have to say anything? I was kind of rolling my eyes. So on that theme,
okay,
things have not gotten better.
Oh, dear.
So I believe in our episode, I was like, the strength of youth just says, they give some guidelines. Yes. So we should just be like letting the kids make their own choices.
We are to teach them appropriate behavior, not appropriate principles, and let them govern themselves.
Well, like 2 weeks after that, our stake had a stake dance. Also a pajama dance.
Well, I think it was like a regional thing because I got it too. I think it was like a 5-stake thing.
It was one of those things where the stake invites the other stake.
Exactly, because I got one for my daughter who lives in a different stake than your kids.
But our stake was hosting.
Okay.
Another pajama theme, Christmas pajama party.
Okay, I did not realize your stake was hosting.
Yes.
Oh, well, this explains so much.
This makes so much sense.
Yes, in that context, I understand it now.
We got a vibe thing. We're nothing if not consistent.
Very true.
So this is what they put on the flyer. I think, I'll just read it.
Just read it.
So at the bottom of the flyer in the fine print, it says, this is a direct quote from the Strength of Youth. Instead of saying modest pajamas like we did on the ward thing, we're going to directly quote it. It says,
hey, maybe they listen to us.
Maybe. So we were like, it's not that specific in the Strength of Youth. Just let the kids figure it out on their own. Well, now we're just going to put the full-blown quote on there.
Okay.
It says at the bottom, avoid styles that emphasize or draw inappropriate attention to your physical body instead of who you are as a child of God with an eternal future. That was the very long sentence at the bottom of this flyer for the pajama party. Again, I was like, well, one point for effort, maybe -2 for making it actually maybe worse and more guilt-inducing. I thought modest pajamas was annoying and eye-rolling.
Yeah.
This is worse. It's talking about your eternal future on the flyer for the stake dance. That's a pajama party.
If you wear your inappropriate pajamas, you will be going straight to hell. You will not pass go. You will not collect $200.
What is the deal? It is December in Idaho. I don't think you need to be that worried.
You probably don't need to be that worried because that's what happened with your girls is they were going to wear their shorty shorts and then practicality of, it's cold outside. I would rather be warm than make a point.
Right. Also, who cares?
I know.
You know what? If somebody shows up at your stake dance and they're not they're wearing short shorts, count your blessings they came.
Exactly. They're not out on the streets drinking.
How hard it is to get a kid to a stake dance these days?
Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, all right, that's my rant. Go ahead. Let's get to the good stuff. I have been waiting all week to hear about Tiffany's ward Christmas party because I haven't talked to her all week and it was last weekend. And all I know is that leading up to it, she was about to
kill someone,
physically die or kill someone. She was in a bad place.
I wouldn't say kill someone. I would just say my stress level was at a max.
She was emotionally and physically drained.
My fuse was very short, and it was one of those things of if you cross me wrong or look at me or anything, I am likely to just rip you into one. And I do have to say, this was coming off of, if it had just been the ward Christmas party, I think it would have been one thing. It was literally 60 days of unrelenting activities.
Plus you had been sick, really.
Plus I had been sick. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I mean, we'd finish one activity and we'd be doing another one. I mean, it was just back to back to back to back. So it was really a lot. And the ward Christmas party was the biggest one. So yes, you had asked me earlier in the week, because I should say we did talk this week.
We talked once, very briefly.
I just refused to talk about the Christmas party because I said, no, we're saving this for the podcast.
So I've been waiting all week.
So,
because I've been hearing about this for a month.
Yes.
I can't remember when we recorded last month. Did you lay your plans out for the pig?
I think I may have referenced it.
Did we know about the pig a month ago?
Oh, yes. We definitely knew about the pig a month ago. We've known about the pig for a while, but the pig plans changed in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Well,
so let me give some background here, some context so that everybody will understand. So I've talked about this numerous times. I am in a Relief Society presidency. However, Relief Society was not in charge of the Christmas party. Mm-hmm. The way that they do the Christmas party in my ward is they call a couple to be in charge of the Christmas party because it's such a big deal.
Yes.
Because I have beefed before that we really need a ward activities committee because our bishop wants to have all sorts of activities, which I totally 100% support, but let's do it through a ward activities committee. So he does call a couple to do the Christmas party. And he called this couple back in August. So back in August, he says to my husband, because he's planning the Christmas party this far in advance, because I looked and I booked the building like August 7th for our Christmas party. Like I was like, we're going to get this building like lickety split before any other ward gets in there or it's even on their radar screen. So he says to my husband, I want to have a pig at the ward Christmas party, like a full on, fully cooked head,
Hawaiian
style pig for the ward Christmas party. So my husband, and so he says to Darren, because my husband's a big barbecuer, he's like, will you cook that? And my husband's like, sure, no problem. Now, has my husband ever cooked a whole pig? No, he's never cooked a whole pig. But he's like, how hard can this be? You just YouTube it.
He's up for the challenge.
So
now
anyway,
you need to add that this is not a Hawaiian themed Christmas.
No.
This is just for funsies.
So anyway, so when my husband agrees to cook the pig, he calls this couple in our ward that we are actually very good friends with. And then he asks us, hey, will you help, since you've agreed to help the food, will you help, Christy and Greg? And I said, sure, no problem. Christy's an interior decorator. She just has like amazing creative ideas. She is just like top notch up there. So I will work on any project with Christy. And Christy was just relieved that Darren and I were going to do the food because it wasn't just the pig. Darren and I were going to be in charge of like all the sides and everything.
The food is a lot of pressure.
And so Christy was like, yeah, if all I have to do is decorate and coordinate a program and they're going to do the food, we're good. So that's kind of the backstory here. So, so we know that we're going to do this pig. So I guess I should say, do you want to talk about the side dishes first, or do you want to talk about the pig? Which direction do you want to go here? Okay, let's go for the pig. So my husband starts like YouTubing and trying to read up about how to cook a pig in the ground. Surprisingly enough, the Polynesians are quite stingy with their methods, and there's not a lot out there.
This is shocking to me because I would think that would be such an easy find on YouTube.
You would think so, but it's not. The best reference on YouTube is actually the Polynesian Cultural Center. And they don't, I mean, they kind of show it, but they don't really show it. But there are just not videos or websites out there that tell you how to cook a pig in the ground. So he has a few ideas. And one of the things he's going to need is banana leaves. Well, and you need a lot of them. It's not like we live in a climate where banana leaves are readily available. Anyway, so the more he reads about cooking the pig in the ground, the more he's like, this is going to be a disaster if I attempt to cook a pig in the ground. So he revamped. Oh, but let me tell you, he digs.
This was after they dug a hole in their yard.
This was after we dug a hole in my yard.
Because I was over for Thanksgiving, and they're like, did you see the hole in our yard?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a big hole.
Yeah. So up until just shortly before Thanksgiving, the plan was to cook the pig in the ground. He brought a track hoe home because he went out there to start digging it by hand and decided this was like way too difficult. And so he went and rented a track hoe. So he brings a track hoe home, and he probably has this pit that he dug in my yard where my trampoline used to be. We got rid of the trampoline. We're kind of beyond that because we don't have kids at home anymore. And the neighbor kids were kind of making a nuisance of my trampoline. I didn't mind them jumping on it, but seriously, this fall we went out there, like everything they ever ate this summer, the wrapper for it was underneath the trampoline. So it was at that point in time, my husband were like, yeah, the trampoline's going. So he dug the hole where the trampoline was. And this is like a 4 foot by 8 foot hole.
It's a big hole.
It was a big hole. In fact, I told my 19-year-old son who lives at home, I'm like, you tick me off. You're going to find yourself out there in the hole. Anyway, so then he decides, yeah, this is not going to work. So then he decides he's going to grill this pig, and he's going to, he starts reading up on this. And so he gets these cinder block, which he's in construction, so getting cinder block is not a big deal. He creates this cinder block grill on my patio that is literally 5 feet, 4 inches by 8 feet, and puts a layer of cinder block down on the bottom so that at least stuff isn't falling actually onto my patio. Does rebar, cuts holes in the cinder block for the rebar to lay on, because the rebar forms the grill he's going to put the pig on.
And then he's thinking he'll put like coals underneath?
Yes, he was going to put coals underneath to cook the pig. Okay. And then we go by like metal roofing to put on top of this. I'll put a picture up on Twin Sisters Instagram of the grill. Then he has metal roofing he's putting on top of this, like, you know, to keep
for like a roof,
for the roof, to keep the heat in from the coals when he's cooking the pig. And he gets a book on this. In fact, the book arrived on a Sunday, and he was like, "Oh, the Gospels arrived." Like, it had the dimensions and everything, like how to create this grill and how to cook the pig and all of that. So he moves on to that plan, which I was infinitely more comfortable with than the pig in the ground.
Plan B.
Plan B. So then you have to get the pig. And it's not like you can just run down to your local Albertsons and say, "Hey, can you order me up a full pig?"
Yeah, what do? You find a farmer?
He found a farmer. I don't know exactly how he found this farmer, but he found this farmer out in the Cuna area. So here's the deal with the pig and buying a pig. Cash under the table, your pig is $200. If you want a receipt, your pig is $450.
What kind of operation is this farmer running?
I have no idea.
Find a underground shady farmer. He's evading taxes.
So for $200, we got a pig.
Can't he just write it out, hand write it? No, he wants no evidence.
He wants no evidence of the pig, of the existence of the pig.
This is really weird.
So we get the pig, or rather, Darren is at work. He sends my son Isaac and Isaac's best friend Johnny to go pick the pig up. Now the pig has not been like it is.
You have to
gut the pig.
Gut it like you do a fish?
Yes.
Okay.
So
who's doing that job?
They take the pig to my husband's work site. Ugh. Again, he's in construction. He's working with a couple of gentlemen who are really into hunting. So they stand around at night.
That's convenient.
Put the lights on, and they're gutting the pig on the job site.
Well, that's great. Outsource that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he's helping them. So he said it was completely fascinating to gut the pig. But before they gutted the pig, they had to get the hair off the pig, because the pig has hair on it, and you want to cook it without the hair on it.
How do you do that?
Well, the way that you do that is you have to put scalding water on the pig.
They're doing this all at the job site?
They're doing this all at the job site. Oh, but the story gets better.
Okay.
So they're doing this all at the job site. So you put scalding water on the pig, and then you scrape the hair off.
Ew.
I probably should have given a warning on this episode that if you are an animal lover, it's probably too late at this point in time for anybody who's listening.
We've lost them. They'll never come back.
Oh, but this gets better. So anyway, so they do that. He cleans up the whole mess. In fact, so they're a sub on this job. They're not a contractor on this job. The next morning, the general contractor says, "I heard you guys were gutting a pig." And Darren's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I dare you to figure out where we were doing it on the job site." The general walked around it. He could not figure out where they had done it, because they had done such a good job of cleaning up.
Well, good for them.
At least he cleaned his mess up. So he brings the pig home. And this pig is probably about 130 pounds after the guts have been removed.
Okay.
Sticks it in the cooler. And then we proceed to brine the pig. So he puts all sorts of salt and apple juice and garlic, and I can't remember all what. So the piggy is sitting in a cooler in my garage overnight, and it's brine.
Goodness.
So this is on Wednesday night. So then we get to Thursday night.
Okay.
He pulls the pig out of the brine on Thursday night, starts cleaning the pig up. We've got the pig filleted, well, I shouldn't say completely filleted out, on a table in my garage. The pig still has some hair on it. So he's like, "Tiffany, grab a razor. We're going to shave the pig."
No.
So Thursday night, I am in my garage shaving a pig.
I think you should have told your bishop to come help shave the pig. Oh my goodness.
On the list of things that I ever thought I would do with my husband, shaving a pig was not one of them.
Oh my goodness.
Well, then the pig is also dirty because the pig has been in the mud, before he came to my house. He was a dirty pig.
Didn't that Brian clean him off?
The bride did not clean him off.
Oh, gross.
So he was like, we need to clean the pig.
No.
So I handed him a scrub daddy and we scrub daddied the pig.
Oh my gosh.
He was looking pretty good by the time we were done. In fact, by the time we were done, we might have been taking selfies with the pig.
Oh my goodness.
So then he gets the pig all dried off and puts salt on his skin. He starts cooking the pig at 3 a.m. And so he has worked a whole day. He hasn't gone to bed. He starts cooking the pig at 3 a.m. And because he's doing it with coals, he's literally pulled an all-nighter.
So he did use the coal. Because
He
last
did use
time
the
I
coal.
talked to you, he was debating just putting it on the Traeger.
Yes.
He decided to use the coals.
he didn't think he could fit it on the Traeger.
Okay.
So he decided to just use the coals. So he stays up all night creating coals and watching the temperature on his pig. Like he literally pulls an all-nighter. I was like, dude, I'm going to bed.
Oh my goodness.
So I went to bed because I had to get up Friday morning and deal with my side dishes. Should we go to side dishes now?
Yeah. This will be more friendly to the vegetarian crowd.
Exactly. So here is my beef with church food events. Generally speaking, they are either a potluck or you pick a recipe and you give everybody the ingredients to make that recipe who signs up for it. And if you have 5 people sign up, you get 5 different versions of the same recipe. I can't do that. I just can't do that. I can't. And so I was like, I need to have complete control over the food. So here's what we did for our side dishes. We had rolls. And as you know, I have a really good roll recipe. So I made rolls on 3 different occasions and I made them like 8 dozen at a time and put them in Ziploc baggies. And I've got a friend of mine who has freezer space. And I said, Leslie, I'm using your freezer space.
Right.
So all the rolls went into the freezer. So we had rolls. Then we were doing salad, which is really easy. We just bought a salad mix and we had toppings for the salad and you could put your own toppings on the salad. So everybody could fix a salad the way they wanted. Then we had green beans, and the green beans, we actually cooked the green beans at the church. I know it says heating and serving only.
How dare you?
I know, but this is how I looked at it. I was actually heating the green beans.
You were heating them. It's fair.
I might have cooked the onions in a pan or heated the onions in a pan. I might have cooked the bacon in a pan.
Also heating.
Cooking,
heating is like the same thing.
It's like the same thing. So we had these green beans. We cooked those at the church. And then we did mac and cheese. Okay. And the way that we did our mac and cheese is I lined up Instapots in the Relief Society room. And I thought we were going to cook 8 full Instapots of mac and cheese. Well, come to find out that overloads the circuits in the church.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, could they handle that?
Well,
not
apparently
so much.
An Instapot pulls more power than a crockpot does because I knew I'd have no problem doing that. So we had several Instapots that didn't start. We had to then dole the Instapots out.
Taking them to the primary room.
Yeah, we were taking them to all sorts of different
classrooms. Every classroom has an Instapot.
To cook the mac and cheese. And then when the mac and cheese came out, we, of course, slapped more cooked crisp bacon on top of that. There was a theme that night.
I guess.
So that's what we did for our main dishes. And then for desserts, Christy wanted these brownies. So she gave me this brownie recipe in advance. I found these cute little baking cups that were like paper, but they were solid that you could bake in them. And I baked 144 of these little baking brownies in advance, which was actually way easier than doing the rolls. Again, they went into Leslie's freezer and they had kind of a moussey mixture on top that was whipped cream with cream cheese and some peppermint. And then I did a salted caramel Rice Krispie treat, which those are super fast to make. And then I had a friend of mine who did some ginger cookies. So
Yum.
those were our sides. Now I have to say, the Sunday before this party, I went into the kitchen because I thought, okay, I have got to assess what sort of serving items are available in the church kitchen. What can I use that's here? What do I need to bring from home? Take a guess. Just what do you think, Ariane?
Was in your kitchen?
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing your kitchen was bare.
Well, I wouldn't say
because usually when I need something in the kitchen is when there's like 5 pitchers and I need 20, or 1 pair of tongs and I need 10.
I wouldn't say it was bare. I would just say it didn't have anything in it that was useful.
Oh.
Let's discuss what the church kitchen has.
I know what it had, because this is what mine always has.
Okay.
Like 100 spoons and 100 forks and 100 knives that you're not going to use because you're going to use plastic.
Exactly.
Like any reasonable, smart person would do.
Exactly.
And a whole lot of plates, again, which you're not going to use.
Exactly.
Nobody does that anymore.
Exactly.
And
whole lot of bowls. Bowls to go with the plates.
Did you at least have pitchers?
Yes, but we didn't use the pitchers because, gross. The church pitchers are disgusting. I have several people in my ward. I've got one of those big things that probably holds 2 gallons of water and has a spigot on it that's all fancy. And so we used 5 of those and put fresh fruit in them, and they looked beautiful out on my table.
Okay, so nothing useful.
Nothing useful, like no serving trays. I don't know how many ice cream scoops were in the kitchen, thousands of ice cream scoops in the kitchen.
Yes, you can always rely on them for ice cream scoops.
But no other serving stuff. Mm-hmm. So I literally had a legal pad full of items. I made a list of what I needed to bring from my house. And I literally transported probably a good third of my kitchen to the church, because I brought my knives, my can opener, all of my, I have a whole bunch of serving spoons, serving platters.
If you find a knife, it will be the dullest knife.
Exactly. Scissors. I mean, just everything that I could possibly need. I transported there.
Okay. So back to the pig.
Okay.
Because you are serving this pig. You told me you were going to serve it on a platter.
Yes.
Oh, I saw the picture on Facebook.
Yes.
You put a picture on Facebook.
I did put a picture on
out
Facebook.
in the open for the whole world to see.
Yes.
I would like to know, were people freaking out? Like, were little kids like, ew, gross?
Okay. We have now talked about the side dishes. We have now talked about the inadequacies of the church kitchen. And it is a good thing that, as you know, I throw a lot of parties. So I have tons of serving platters and catering stuff. So that is kind of relatively easy for me to do. Okay, so back to the pig. So my husband was concerned, that the pig was not going to be enough meat for the ward.
Oh.
So
Really? A whole pig?
A whole pig. He was concerned that wasn't going to be enough meat. Mm-hmm. I figured the pig would be plenty of meat. But to allay his concerns, I said, okay, let's go buy a couple of pork butts. So we go buy a couple of pork butts, because this actually does 2 different things. He cooked the pork butts on the Traeger, I should say. He cooked the pork butts on the Traeger, and then he just chopped them and seasoned them and put them in big serving trays.
Okay.
Because the purpose of having the whole pig was so that people could pick the pig. And I knew
you're not going to cut the pig.
No.
You're just going to let people stab at it.
Yes, I had tongs,
really?
And people were picking the pig with tongs.
Oh, I thought you were going to
No. We were picking the pig. So I said, okay, let's do the pork butt, because there may be people who don't want to pick the pig, and that way they can just go up to the tray that already has the meat in there that's seasoned and do that. I figured we were going to come home with a ton of pork, and I thought that's okay. We'll seal and mill it. We'll freeze it. He can use it for, he's always doing campouts with the boys. He can use it for breakfast meat for campouts with the boys. So, anyway, 6 o'clock. First of all, about 5 o'clock, I have one of the teenage boys there who's helping me, and I'm starting to get concerned about my husband because he hasn't slept in 36 hours. So I say, Nick, go to my house and check on Darren. So he goes to the house. He texts me back. He's like, it's all good. He's like, the pig is having a little bit of a hard time getting up to temperature. Uh-oh. So a little after 6, the pig isn't there yet. I'm kind of starting to panic. Mm-hmm. Well, finally about 6:10, 6:11, the pig comes cruising in. Okay. As soon as the pig arrived, he brings it in through the kitchen door, puts it on the kitchen counter. People swarm into the kitchen. People are taking pictures of the pig. I haven't even decorated the pig yet. It's on a tray.
The pig is the star of the ward party.
The pig is the star of the ward party.
Okay.
So after I let people get their pictures, I was like, get out of my kitchen. My pig has to get dressed for the party, because the pig had to be properly dressed. I had to put down a bed of lettuce. And then I had a friend that carved these oranges to look like flowers with radishes as centers that were going all around the pig, because you don't come to my party unless you're properly dressed, especially if you're the star of the party. So the pig had to be properly dressed for the party.
Okay.
So I get the pig properly dressed. I get Darren to agree to a selfie with the pig properly dressed. So then they bring the pig into the cultural hall because I've told him, I said, this is the specific spot on the table where the pig is going to go.
The pig out. This is just like a luau. Ta-da, the pig.
Exactly. And so everybody's in there and they're like, ooh, ah.
Uh-huh.
Then everybody starts gathering around the pig, looking at the pig.
Okay.
And like, I didn't think that many people would be enamored with the pig.
Uh-huh.
They were completely enamored with the pig. Like
Really?
completely enamored
Okay, so
with the pig.
did they eat it?
Well, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So we let everybody like look at the pig in its full glory. And I
Uh-huh.
say to my husband, I said, look, we have got to go cut the skin so people can pick the pig. So we go up there and we cut the skin. The bishop hasn't started things yet.
Mhm.
Fold it back, grab the tongs, start like pulling a little meat off so people
Okay.
get the idea of what
Okay.
they are supposed to do. And so the bishop starts it. Everybody, rather than get in line, the bishop's like, okay, if your tablecloth is green, you get to go up.
Right.
And that's how we did it.
Mhm.
My ward picked that pig nearly clean.
Really?
There was a little bit of shoulder that was left. Not only that, most of the pork butt was gone. Probably 90% of the pork butt was
it's a good
gone.
thing you did that.
It is such a good thing that we did that. Like, picked the pig
Okay.
clean.
Well, I'm shocked. I thought all the little kids would be grossed out.
No, they were quite fascinated by it.
Okay, so how did it taste?
It was freaking delicious.
Did it just shred off?
It did. It just shredded off and it was juicy and it had really good flavor. And you could even taste some of the brine that he brined it in. It was yummy, yummy, yummy.
I am like, not that I didn't have faith.
Yes.
But I'm very surprised that this went over as well as it did.
Well, there was a lot of prayer involved. I'm not going to lie there. Lots and lots of prayer involved because the book that my husband got that he referred to as the gospel says, the first time you do this, don't do it for a big party.
Oh.
Do a test run first.
Uh-oh. Well, this sounds like you may have gotten yourselves a job every Christmas. So.
Well, I don't know. We are going to do another pig for 4th of July. You know how we always do like a neighborhood block bash for 4th of July. So we've already planned that we're going to do a big pig for 4th
Just
of July.
for your neighbors, not for the ward.
Not for, well, it'll probably end up being as big as
some
the ward.
overlap. There's some overlap there.
Because I literally tell, like, I not only do I invite my neighbors, I invite friends. I've already invited people from my office. I'm like, here's the deal. You show up at my house on the 4th. You have to bring your own camp chair because I don't have seating. You have to bring your own beverage, whatever you want, alcohol, non-alcohol. I don't really care. You have to bring a side dish. And we will provide the pig. And we just sit around and we eat. And then we do fireworks once it gets dark. It is really fun.
Well, darn, I'm going to be out of town for the 4th this year. I don't think I'll get to see your pig.
Oh, I didn't realize you guys were going to be out of town. Well, anyway. All right. So that was my ward Christmas party. Well, I mean, that was the food for my ward Christmas party. We ended up doing a little play that was called Picture This. And it was a story about, of course, the birth of the Savior. My friend Christy, who was in charge of this ward Christmas party, did the coolest thing. Okay. You know how I have been harping on the Light the World and that we do not have a giving machine here in Idaho. She had gone to a party at her office and they had a Barbie box at the party, like the box that you could go in and have your picture taken in that makes it look like you're standing in an actual Barbie box.
Yes, I wanted one of those so bad.
I did too.
After the movie came out, I was like, how do I get my hands on one of these?
She usurped the Barbie box and she covered it in red paper and she made it a giving machine.
It was so cute.
It was
I
so
saw the
cute.
picture online. It was so cute.
Yes, if you want to see a picture of it, it's on the TWIM Facebook page. And so she did that and she put cards in there that were like, take cookies to a neighbor, shovel somebody's snow.
I like that too, like ideas of service.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you could take a card and then you had that card and then you could perform that service with that card.
So cute.
So
she's going to save that, right?
We
have to do it every year.
You know what? We probably should. We ended up moving it out into the hallway. So it's in the hallway of the church right now.
Church. You better
still
make sure you save that.
I think, you know what? You're right. I need to. I've got to figure out a way to con Darren to tell him this needs to come home and sit in my garage because I think it's so cool.
It's so cute.
So anyway, so that in a nutshell is a summary of my ward Christmas party. I realize we are several minutes into the show. We had planned tonight. We were going to kind of do a deep dive into ward Christmas parties.
We were.
I don't know how many stories we'll get to tonight, but why don't you talk about your ward Christmas party?
I'll just hit on mine really quick because we had ours on Wednesday night and it was lovely. It was like probably my favorite we've ever had since moving here. It was so
really. Okay, so tell me all about it.
It was like the perfect mix of like they called a couple to be in charge.
Okay.
And she is darling. She's so good at like planning parties and events.
Yeah.
And she just made it really cute, but not over the top to where people were like dying. Like I went and helped set up, and it was not like a hours and hours and hours. It was a quick setup,
Yeah.
but really cute. It was just your typical ham,
Uh-huh.
not a pig. But
So how did they do the food? Did they have people cook and bring stuff?
They always do. They do the same thing every year. So it's nothing. It's just your typical ham. You sign up to bring either funeral potatoes, salad, or dessert.
Okay.
And no recipe is a free for all. So yeah, you do. You got to choose your funeral potatoes wisely.
It's very true.
So,
if you've
not
ever,
all funeral potatoes are created equal.
Oh, never a more true statement has been said.
But But here's what made it like so perfect. We've never done this before. They had the primary kids do like a little Christmas pageant.
Oh.
And it was darling. Our primary song leader did it, and she kind of did it from like the Book of Mormon perspective of the Savior's birth.
Okay.
And they sang lots of songs. Every kid in the primary had a part. The little ones were animals. There were a bunch of angels. They had they started with Samuel, the Lamanite, prophesying about Jesus.
Yes.
And there were kids throwing rocks at it, like pretending to throw rocks.
Yeah.
So, they were into it. And then just sprinkled with the cutest songs. It was darling. And we've never done that for the program before. I think I mentioned on here several years ago, we've had some not great programs. Like one year they showed like literally a half an hour long video from the church.
Oh.
And my kids were going insane. It was just one of those Christmas videos.
Probably along with every other kid there.
Yeah. So they've done a lot of that in the past, like a video of the prophet sharing a Christmas message or this. One thing they do every year, and they did it again this year. Well, they don't do it every year. It's newer. They've started it. Is they have all the missionaries from our ward submit a video.
Oh,
like a 1 or 2 minute, just sharing their testimony, quick update on how they're doing on their missions, and they edit them all together. And that was really cute. So the whole program was just the missionary video and then the primary little pageant, and that was it. And it was like perfect time, not too long, not too short. The kids were sweet. The kids are what made it.
Yeah.
Because
and I forgot to mention, because again, in the crazy of all of the food, we did a video too. They videoed the primary kids asking them questions about Christmas, and then put that all together. And it was really, really, really darling.
You know what else I really liked about having the primary kids so involved as a mom of primary kids? It gave them something to do.
Oh.
So they weren't running amok in the church. I mean, there was a little bit of running amok in the church, but then they had to go do their parts. Well, and that really kept them involved versus them sitting there during a program.
Yes.
This is like the balance you have to find,
exactly,
right? When you have a ward party with 90-year-olds and
children,
babies.
Yeah.
There's always that balance. So it was a great year for our ward. I loved it.
I love that. And kudos to your primary music leader for willingly accepting that.
I know.
On the heels of probably what was the primary program.
Yeah.
That's a big undertaking.
It was. And she did great. They took the week before in primary to practice.
Okay.
Like, we didn't teach classes that week. Everybody stayed in the room and gave it one quick practice. And they'd, of course, been practicing the songs for the months leading up to it. So it was really cute. It was fun. And I think they're going to do it every year. She said, I want to make this a tradition.
Oh,
so I loved it.
Good. Yeah. Well, I put on Facebook this week for our TWIM Nation. I said, TWIM Nation, Ariane and I are going to talk all things Christmas party this week when we record. So give me some content.
No, this is a hot topic. People have very strong opinions about.
They do.
It's like the ward Christmas party is kind of like the crowning jewel of all ward events for the year.
It's very true.
The one that holds the most clout, has
the
most
very
pressure,
true.
The most opinions.
Very true. And well, let me tell you what people said, and then I'll tell you what my takeaway was. So we have lots of wards that do breakfast, lots of wards that do dinner. So there's a whole debate, what is better, breakfast or dinner? Right. Breakfast, you might get your older folks out who don't want to drive after dark. But also breakfast, have you ever tried corralling your kids to get them to the church at 8 or 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning?
Breakfast can be rough.
So then the other big debate is Santa versus no Santa.
I've never been to a ward Christmas party with Santa. Ever. Every single ward I've lived in, there has been no Santa.
Do you not remember from our childhood?
Oh, I remember from our childhood. I should
Okay.
say as an adult.
As an adult.
As an
Okay.
adult, married woman, I have never had Santa
Okay.
at my ward Christmas party. I'm a little bitter because I loved it as a kid.
Well, exactly. I did too, because we need to compare notes about what you remember from the ward Christmas party as a kid versus me, because we're 11 years apart in age, and you probably remember a completely different building than I remember.
I remember Santa coming every year and giving us a little bag of goodies, and there was always like an orange and a candy
Yes.
cane, and we looked forward to it every year, and we'd hear like the jingle bells
Yes.
before he came in, and it was like, oh, Santa's coming.
Exactly. So,
So,
the only thing, so the Christmas parties I remember were the building on 14th Street. This was a building that was built probably in the late 20s, early 30s. I don't even know if you have any memories of that building. Probably vague.
little bit.
Yeah, because the church abandoned that building probably when you were quite young. Anyway, so yeah, we would have a paper sack. It would have peanuts in it. It would have an orange. It would have some hard candy or a candy cane, and then like 2 little like chocolates in it. And I always remember that we would sing Up on the Housetop, reindeer paws, and then Santa would come in. I'm sure we did other stuff, but I cannot for the life of me tell you what it was we did, because that's what I remember is Santa. And so it's this ward I'm in. We've done Santa maybe once or twice, not very often. And yeah, not a lot of Santa. And how, I mean, I struggle with that because like I said, I just really remember that as a kid, and I just really liked it. So
I know. Me too.
And
It was fun.
And I see both sides of that debate, which then brings me to, do you have a spiritual party versus a festive party? There were lots of people on Facebook who said, we get so much spiritual at church. We just want to have party and not so much spiritual. Somebody even said, you don't necessarily have to have food at your ward Christmas party.
Now that is a hot take.
That is a hot take.
I think most people would disagree.
I think most people would disagree too. In fact, he said one of his friends was a new bishop and elected not to have food at the ward Christmas party.
Oh,
the first year he was a new bishop.
That's rough.
He had a rough go of it.
I'm sure he got an earful.
Yes. One lady was really funny because the ward that she'd lived in, that her family had lived in for a number of years, that her kids grew up in, they always did a breakfast. They moved to a new ward and they did a dinner, and her kids turned to her and were like, can they do that? Is that allowed?
That's so funny.
I thought that was hilarious. And then, some wards will do the same thing every year, and some people appreciate that. Some wards will change it up every year, and some people appreciate that. Kind of my hot take from the whole thing was, regardless of what your ward chooses to do, someone is not going to be happy.
That's so true. You just can't win them all.
Yeah, you just can't win them all.
There's too many strong opinions about this.
Exactly. Exactly. And then there was a whole LDS Living article, and we're kind of getting short on time, so I won't go into that, about, 8 different types of Christmas parties, some of which we've done, some of which we haven't. And so anyway, but yeah, we could probably spend a whole hour, our whole entire hour talking about the ward Christmas party.
It was fun to look at the Facebook posts because it's just fun to see what other people do.
Exactly. Exactly.
I always like to hear about what other people do.
So I'm just going to encourage y'all out there to go look at the Facebook post and see what people wrote, because people contributed and wrote some really great comments, and I appreciated it.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to move on to articles of news this week. There wasn't a ton of news this week, but we do have a few.
We do have a few. So to start off the week, this last Sunday, President Holland rededicated the St. George Temple.
Yay! I'm so glad he was able to do that.
I am so
we
glad
weren't sure,
too.
like, if his health would be up, if he'd be up for it, but he was.
Exactly. And the people of St. George had really been praying for him. They had wanted him to be the apostle that was going to come down and rededicate the temple. Obviously, because he grew up there, he met his wife there. They were sealed there. St. George has, he is a hometown boy. And so when Sister Holland passed away and then he had all the health issues, they really wondered, is he going to be able to dedicate the temple? So they were very happy that he was healthy enough to be able to dedicate the temple. they really focused on the pioneer heritage of this temple.
Mhm.
This is the first temple that was built and dedicated, because the Salt Lake Temple took so long to be done. It was the only temple Brigham Young ever dedicated, was the St. George Temple. So it was up and operating and functioning way before Salt Lake was. And just how the saints down there had gone to this really hot, barren desert, and they're struggling to survive, yet at the same time they're building this temple. And President Holland said, I could not love any other spiritual place more than I love this one.
I love it when they let them take the ones that are special to them. And I feel like
Exactly.
President Nelson really tries to give them that
Exactly.
with the different apostles. And I love that they do that.
Exactly. So it said that the consecrated early Latter-day Saints in St. George were not ready to build a temple because they were still in dire poverty, but they were willing.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, that says a lot. And then another really sweet thing in the article is that, so this is the second time it's been remodeled. It was remodeled in the 70s and rededicated by Spencer W. Kimball. They expect this remodel to last somewhere between 50 to 70 years before it will need to be remodeled again. It looks very historic to the time.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I really liked is, as soon as President Holland arrived in St. George, he visited the St. George Cemetery and his wife's grave. This was the first time he'd been back there since her burial, and I just thought that was so sweet.
That's a big moment.
And he said, I am filled with lots of emotion and a lot of happiness. I'm planning on eternity. I'm collecting on the promises of this temple. So
Very sweet.
I thought that was really sweet. The other thing, too, that I was quite shocked, because I don't believe I've ever seen this with any other temple dedication. The prayer that he used to dedicate the temple, of course, was recorded. But not only was it recorded, it was translated word for word and released to the public. So even if you weren't there to listen to his dedicatory prayer, you can read a transcript of the dedicatory prayer. And again, he talks a lot about, pays a lot of homage to the history and those early saints who built this temple. And I just thought, man, that's really cool to be able to read the prayer that he wrote to dedicate it.
That is cool. Okay, next we have a couple of Tabernacle Choir articles, the Tab Cats. First one is, they just announced this week that Lloyd Newell, who is the voice of music in the spoken word and has been for the last 34 years,
I know,
is retiring because he's going to go serve a mission with his wife, Carmel. So that is sad. I cannot imagine another narrator, but we'll get one.
Exactly.
So we have him until about July.
Yes.
And so there was a very sweet article about him if you want to go read more about his history with the choir.
Well, and he talks about how President Hinckley, he would have been in the first presidency at that time, extended the calling to him and said, this calling will last until you get a new calling. And he was like, I guess I got a new calling.
That's a long calling.
That's a long calling.
So, okay. And then the other is they released an article about the Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra's Christmas concert this year, which is happening right now, but opening night was last night. We're recording this on Friday. Opening night was Thursday. So they kind of gave a little summary of that. It sounds like it was a great concert. We've talked about it before. They had one of the actors from Downton Abbey was the narrator,
Leslie Nichol,
and the guest singer is Michael Maliukal.
Yes,
and this is someone from Broadway, stars in Aladdin, and very,
Well, the article talks about all of the different songs that they sang. I'm you can tune into music in the spoken word on Sunday and you'll get kind of a mini version of the concert. But we won't be able to see, for those who weren't lucky enough to get tickets, and I did not win the lottery for tickets. Otherwise, you and I would not be recording right now,
right?
Because I would be down in Utah. We won't be able to see it till it airs on PBS next year.
Next year. They always show them a year later.
Exactly. Because I looked at a lot of the music that was selected, and there were some really fun songs that I was like, oh, I want to hear that.
I know. It looks like it'll be a good one. So watch for that a year from now.
Yes.
On your TV.
Exactly.
Okay. Next article we have, this is a follow-up to one that we didn't talk, somebody talked about it.
We did not talk about it. One of the other hosts talked about it.
One of the other hosts.
I want to say it was the international edition that maybe they talked about this, but this would be a little out of their league. But one of the other hosts talked about it.
This was a few weeks ago. This came out that there were some in the Bay Area. There were several stakes that were having women sit on the stand just in their wards, like weekly, women in leadership, like release society president, primary president, and they did it different ways depending on the ward. But this was a thing that had been done in some wards and stakes for up to a decade. I was like, I had no idea. Anyway, so recently an area authority came and told them to knock it off. This has caused quite the stir, obviously, if these women have been doing this for a decade. So this was just a quick little follow-up that the Salt Lake Tribune did. And this is actually an article that is word for word from their podcast, Mormon Land. And I listened to this podcast last week. They just kind of dived in with two of the women who actually live there and are involved in this. One is Amy Jensen, who used to be a young women leader in Lafayette, California. And the other is Laurel McNeil, and she's a current Relief Society president in Sunnyvale, California. So they just kind of followed up, interviewed them. They are not going down quietly.
Oh my.
And I personally do not blame them.
Okay.
I think this is, I don't know. I don't see the problem here, but that's my personal opinion. So I think that I'm appreciative that they're fighting this.
Yes.
So they're writing letters. They first have been writing letters to the area authority, and their stake president has been passing them on. But then they decided to write an open letter to the general women presidents of the church. They thought maybe this is the route we should go. And they said they got over 2,000 people that signed their name on this letter from more than 20 countries. But one thing that was really interesting about this article is, or this podcast, they asked them about some of the feedback that they've gotten. And they said they've gotten really positive feedback from across the world. They said that this is happening in other places, like in Europe. They heard from someone in Texas who was excited because her ward and stake are just about to barely starting to do this. It said in Missouri, they heard from women that have always sat on the stand during stake conference, which I think I've seen that before, But anyway, just very interesting to hear about these things happening in different places, because I had no idea this was a thing.
Oh, I had no idea this was a thing either.
Until this came out, and I was like, you can do that? And then I was like, oh, it makes so much sense.
It does.
And I loved, they quoted this one Relief Society president, or someone that had been serving, said that one of the reasons they really liked it, this was someone from Austria, they're doing this over there. And she said one of the reasons that she really likes it is because when a stranger comes into the chapel for church the first time, they're able to see the breadth of organizations up there on the stand. Otherwise, they might not, just from sacrament meeting, they might not realize there's a Relief Society or a young women's program. And so I love this quote. She said, it's not about recognition, but it's actually about being recognizable.
Oh,
like it's not like they need the recognition. They want to be recognizable so people know that we do have women's programs. We do have a place for women. So I just thought that was an interesting perspective. And I also loved, as they were interviewing these women, they shared the perspective of how helpful it was to be up there for them in their calling.
Yes.
They could
Which was very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting perspective.
Oh, and I could totally see that. They could see who's there. They could see who maybe needs help, who's sitting alone, things that maybe they just might have some insight on. So anyway, we'll follow it and see if anything comes of it.
Well, and it's such an interesting concept because it really is kind of either a stake by stake or region by region thing, because they had been doing this for quite some time. And I believe it was a regional authority, if I remember correctly, who cracked down on them. And there was a lot of discussion about this on the TWIM Facebook group. And our esteemed colleague, Jeff Openshaw, chimed in, and he said, the Church Handbook of Instruction neither permits nor denies.
Right.
It
just says nothing.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And as long as they are not presiding over the meeting, and they're not presiding over the meeting, they're just simply sitting on the stand, that there's no, there's nothing that says this is inappropriate. And so it's really an interesting thought, because I really had no idea that this was going on a local level.
It just never occurred to me. And then,
but it does
like,
make sense when
it's
you think,
brilliant.
when you think about General Conference,
Yeah.
because the General Relief Society Board, or the General Relief Society presidency, the General Primary Presidency, and the General Young Women's Presidency sits on the stand.
Although that is newer.
That is newer.
That is newer.
That is newer. You are correct about that.
But we are moving.
We're moving in that
right direction. So I think it's a great idea. I really hope that this policy changes for them. I hope it changes for us. Why don't we do this?
Well, I mean, it would be nice if, again, in an ideal world, if the church were to issue some sort of a statement that just says, "Hey, we don't have a problem with this.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then, each ward or stake or area can decide, what they want to do."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, so I will do our last story before we get into Mormons behaving badly. This is such a sweet story. It's a really good way to kind of end our news segment. There is a young man. His name is Cade Madsen. He is from Honeyville, Utah, and he is 18 years old. He is a cowboy, and he is a bull rider. Like, that is a serious cowboy if you are a bull rider. His older brother has also been a bull rider. So he has been riding bulls ever since he was a little kid. He started with mutton busting, where they ride the sheep. And he progressively got onto bigger and larger animals. And he was a little intimidated at first, but he watched his older brother, and that helped him along. Anyway, so he decides, and he's not on the professional rodeo circuit. What he is he's with a group of professional bull riders, and they have these teams. And
this was fascinating.
It was. And these teams go around the country and compete against each other.
They draft you.
They draft them, just like an NFL team.
This is a world I knew nothing about.
This is a world I knew nothing about, too. Anyway, they draft him just like an NFL team. So he is on this team, and they are called, let's see, he's on a team from Missouri that is called the Missouri Thunder. Well, he decides, I'm going to go on a mission. And so he is leaving bull riding for 2 years. And he told that to the Missouri Thunder when they drafted him. He's like, I'm going to serve a mission for my church. He got called to Nashville, Tennessee. So he will be amongst all sorts of other cowboys out there in Nashville, Tennessee. And he started his home MTC on December 4th. And just talked about how he intends to go out there and share the gospel. And his brother did the same thing and then came back and got into bull riding. And so I hope that we see more of Cade Madsen and his bull riding in the future after he finishes his 2-year mission.
That's kind of fun. We get a lot of stories about athletes that take a pause for a mission, but I think this is the first bull riding one.
Exactly. So, okay, should we move on to Mormons behaving badly?
Yes.
Okay, I've got 3 stories. I've got 2 new ones, and then I have a Bundy update. Because after I podcasted last time, I think I said, okay, Bundy's either going to die down or get really colorful really quick. First, Mormons behaving badly. We had a man who was arrested for smashing the windows at the Provo Temple with a hammer. This happened this week. He was arrested. His name was Weston Forrest Avery Huff. He is 30. He was from Orem.
He's giving him a head start on the demo.
He's giving them a head start on the demo. Exactly.
An illegal one, but
exactly. When he was asked about, did he go to because he fled the scene and they had some camera footage. They were able to track his vehicle down. The officers see that there's a hammer in the front seat of his vehicle. And so they ask him, were you at the temple smashing windows? And he said, yes, Jesus Christ told me to go there and do that. So, yeah.
That's sketchy.
It's a little sketchy. Mr. Huff may have some mental health issues. So, anyway, our next one. This is a doozy. So,
this is wild.
Now, had you ever heard about this one?
I had never heard about this one, but when I read this article, let's just say this is Tim Ballard 2.0.
Yes, it is giving major Tim Ballard vibes.
There's another one.
Jeez.
It's like whack-a-mole.
It's like whack-a-mole. So there is this, he's an actor and a producer and a director. His name is Darren Scott Southam. Although these days he's going by Darren Scott. He's kind of dropped the Southam. He has directed and produced this new movie called The Oath, and The Oath is loosely based on the Book of Mormon character Moroni. And it took him 13 years to bring this to fruition. It was recently released in the theaters. And he released a video on YouTube that is about 13 minutes long. I would love to give you the link to the video, but the video has now been removed. But if you look at the link that we are going to link to, there is a transcript of the video.
It is a written kind of some summary of exactly what he says in the video.
Exactly. The
Written
video
by him.
The video is entitled An Open Letter to My Church. And he gets on the video, and for 13 minutes, he basically rants and blasts the church for not supporting his movie. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how he did a screening of his movie with the church PR department, and they said, "We think your movie's lovely. We hope it will be successful." But the church hasn't financially backed this movie that's based on the Book of Mormon. Mm-hmm. The church has not come out and told people, "Hey, you should go see this really good movie." Those are things that he would like to see. And he blasts the church for supporting Love Loud. He blasts the church for supporting The Chosen. He blasts the church for taking out an article in the playbill for the Book of Mormon musical, but not supporting his movie. It really wasn't a very good look. So
he's mad.
He is, and he's a little upset about this.
Very entitled. I have to say, like, from the first paragraph, I was like, who does this guy think he is?
Exactly.
So entitled.
Exactly.
Why does my tithing money need to go to him?
Exactly. So it was giving me major Tim Ballard vibes. And politically, I did a little deep dive on him. Mm-hmm. Politically, he is, I would consider him to be very extremist right wing. He was at the Capitol on January 6th. Oh. Although he did not penetrate the Capitol, he was there as part of the mayhem for that. But supposedly he has, I should say allegedly, because I don't know for sure. This is just kind of what I read, that he has scrubbed his social media of the videos that previously existed showing him at the Capitol.
Now, I'm assuming he lives in Utah.
He does. He lives in Utah.
And the film came out this week, right?
The film came out this week.
I just, on my phone, because I was curious, pulled it up because I was like, oh, is it
playing in Idaho?
It is playing in 3 theaters here.
Wow.
But they all have like one showtime.
Okay.
Okay. So, but I think that's really interesting because I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either.
I'm like, who is going to go to this? Have people here heard of this? And we're just out of the loop?
I don't know, because I haven't even seen that much on Facebook. I mean, when Tim Ballard's movie came out, Sound of Freedom, that thing was blasted all over Facebook.
People were passing it around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting.
So very, very interesting. The video really was not a good look for Brother Southam, in my opinion. But so that's why I nominated him for Mormons Behaving Badly. Is he needs to play a little nicer and be a little less entitled.
Yeah.
So,
that was weird.
Ammon Bundy update. So, when we last left off with Ammon Bundy, he was getting defaulted.
They were going to take his house.
And so, supposedly, so the judge, let me backtrack here. Let me get my facts straight. Mm-hmm. So St. Luke's sued the guy who bought Ammon Bundy's house and sued Ammon Bundy because St. Luke's wanted to undo the transaction, claiming that it was a fraudulent transaction. Right. Ammon Bundy did not make an appearance in this case, so the judge entered a default judgment. And the other party in this case, the gentleman who had purchased his house, which was a gentleman by the name of Aaron Welling,
one of his followers,
was cooperative with the court in St. Luke's and handed the property over to St. Luke's, according to the documentation. He decided, I don't want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. So when Welling bought the house, not only did he buy the house, he bought all the furnishing and all the fixtures. Well, when St. Luke's went into the house to check the status of it, none of the furnishings were there and many fixtures had been removed. So St. Luke's is a little grumpy about that.
Yeah.
So the good news is Ammon Bundy has left the state of Idaho.
He's left our state.
He posted a video, which I watched for you folks, so you don't have to, on December 2nd. And he said that his family has been temporarily displaced. They have taken all of his physical possessions and they're trying to take his liberty. Well, I would say they haven't taken all of his physical possessions because he took a bunch of stuff out of the house that he wasn't supposed to take. Anyway, and he goes on to talk about the deep state in Idaho. I don't know if you knew Idaho was a deep state.
No.
Run by the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. And he said that it was just too dangerous for him and his family to remain in Idaho.
No longer a safe place here.
It is no longer a safe place.
We ran him out. I feel like a Missouri mob, but I'm not mad about it.
I'm not mad about it either. Now, nobody has really said where Ammon Bundy is, although my suspicion is I think he went home to Cliven. I think he's hanging out on the ranch in Nevada.
That's in Nevada, right?
Yes, that's in Nevada. That would be where I would put my money, is that he's hanging out at the ranch in Nevada.
Nevada seems like a great place for him. Lots of wide open spaces. It's the wild, wild west there. He'll thrive.
Exactly. So our loss is Nevada's gain.
You're welcome, Nevada.
Thank us later. All right. Now we have to move on to favorite things. Ariane is not looking forward to this segment. I have a favorite thing tonight, but before we start our favorite thing, I have to follow up on something else.
Okay.
So last time we recorded, I talked about the infamous tomato soup cupcake.
Yes. You threatened to make me try one.
I threatened to make you try one because my ward has Linger Longer this Sunday. And so today I made the tomato soup cupcakes for Linger Longer. And so we are going to try the tomato soup cupcake before I inflict it upon my ward. So...
And you haven't tried this yet.
I have not tried this yet. I did try the batter when I was cooking it. For those who are watching on YouTube, here is the tomato soup cupcake. It has a cream cheese frosting. It is a very dense cupcake. It
more
is
like a muffin.
It seems to be almost more like a muffin. It is not light and fluffy like a cake is light and fluffy.
So there's tomato soup, but I'm assuming there's a lot of sugar.
So there is. So the way where this originated from a Relief Society cookbook from the Mill Creek 3rd Ward in Utah that my mother-in-law gifted to me in pursuit of my strange Mormon recipes that I figure are so appropriate.
Is this
for Linger Longer?
Is this on brand for the rest of the cookbook?
Pretty much. So you start with a can of tomato soup. And I have pictures of this on our Twim Instagram. You start with a can of tomato soup. You add melted butter and sugar, and you mix those together. And then you're going to add in baking soda, cloves, nutmeg, and vanilla. And then you're going to put your flour in, and then you're going to bake it, and it is topped with a cream cheese frosting. Look, I even put sparkles on it. I put red sparkles to make it festive.
To remind me that there's soup in there. Red soup.
So I am cutting this in half.
Okay.
And we'll see how this is. Be sure to get a bite with the frosting. It's very tomatoey.
The frosting helps take the edge off. It's not as bad as I thought.
Okay.
I don't think it's a keeper. I really want to hear if these get eaten at your ward party.
I will return and report.
I want you. I'm getting some tomato aftertaste.
Yes.
I want you to take note of how many people eat one bite and leave the rest on their plate and throw it away.
Well, here's what I think I'm going to do. So the kids always go through the line first. So I'm not going to waste these on the children because the children will just take a look at it, think it looks good. They'll take one bite, they'll throw it away.
They'll lick the frosting off.
I need a more distinguished palate. So I think I'm going to wait till after the kids come through. And then I think I only have 12 of them. I didn't make a huge batch.
Okay.
Then I think I'm going to bring the tomato soup cupcakes and put them on the table and see if I can talk willing adults into trying.
Are you going to tell them what's in it? Well, if they listen to us.
If they listen to the podcast, they might know. Or if they follow Twim Sisters Instagram, because I put it out there on the Twim Sisters Instagram. So
it's kind of spicy, all those spices.
It really is. It has a very different
it's like
flavor.
Carrot cakey, but tomato cakey.
Yeah, and that's okay. And I just want you to know, I saved you because the recipe called for raisins.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I am not kidding you. I did not put the raisins in.
There's a way you could make this worse.
Yes, I could have put raisins in, but I was thinking about you, Ariane, and I was like, I love my sister enough to not put raisins in the tomato soup cupcake.
I do appreciate that.
Okay. All right.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Favorite things?
Favorite things.
Okay, I'll go really fast. Mine is actually a repeat favorite thing because I
Okay.
have favorited this before, but I think it's been many years. The Lower Lights Christmas albums. Well, the Lower Lights, anything.
I love the Lower Lights.
Everything they do is great. They're a group out of Utah. Amazing musicians. My husband and I went to their concert last week. It's the first time. We've always wanted to go to their concert.
Jelly.
We drove down to Salt
I'm
Lake.
so jealous.
I went to their concert. They are so talented. There are 18 people in that group.
I didn't know there
I
were
didn't know
many.
it was that big either. 5 of them are singers. The rest of them all play multiple instruments. There are so many instruments on that stage. I didn't even know.
So where was the concert
half
at?
of them were. It was at the U.
Okay.
In one of their concert halls.
Okay.
It was a raging good time. And I did not realize they have like 2 new CDs, albums that they've released in the past like year or 2.
Okay, with like church music, doo-wop church music, because I love their doo-wop church music.
Lots of like gospel stuff.
Okay.
But there are some hymns on there too.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to go check that out.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of their stuff.
Anyway, love them so much. I'm giving them a second favorite thing several years later.
Perfect.
They're still that good.
Oh, that is awesome.
Okay.
Okay, so my favorite thing is I finally broke down and got a robot vacuum. Now, I have been on the fence about the robot vacuum because they're kind of pricey little things. And I just wasn't convinced that I was really going to like it. I really wasn't convinced that it was going to work that well. And I thought, I do not want to go spend hundreds of dollars on this vacuum that I'm going to not like. Well, my local Walmart, they have knockoff ones that are a lot cheaper that don't do the mapping or anything like that. My local Walmart was clearancing out some of these kind of knockoff ones that are a little cheaper for $35.50.
That is crazy. Why didn't you call me? Like I need another, but
I know.
One can always use another.
So
they could be friends.
They still have some on the shelf because where they've put them, people don't realize where they're on clearance.
Oh, I might get one.
Because they're like really low on the shelf. Anyway. So I thought, okay, for $35, if I hate the thing, I am not out a big capital expenditure. And really, all I ever wanted it to do was just do my tile. I did not want it to do my carpet. I'm going to use my big vacuum on my carpet. But I have probably 1,000 square feet of tile on the main floor in my house, as you know. And it is in all the main entry areas. And it's in the kitchen. It's in the dining room. It's in the bathrooms, the hallways, just anywhere in the main floor of my house. So in addition to having this 1,000 square feet of tile, I've got 2 dogs. Well, I have 1 dog, but my son's dog is over all the time. So I say I have 2. My husband works construction. My son works with him. They are continually tracking in.
You got a lot of dust.
The grit from the construction site.
Dust and dog hair.
It is like having sand on my tile and dust and dog hair. It drives me nuts. And so I thought, okay, if I can just get this thing to work on my tile and sweep my tile so we did it. And the first time I was frightened. So before I even ran it the first time, I dry mopped my tile. Plus I did a little wet spot mopping. So it wasn't like as bad as it could be. And the thing was totally packed. And then the next day I did it and it was totally packed again. I'm like, where is this coming from?
I know.
Finally today, it's not as packed, but I've just set it so that Monday through Friday, it's going to go off every morning at 6 a.m., do my tile. I'll start fresh with tile for the day, go to bed, and then wake up the next morning with fresh tile and hopefully not have to deal with all the grit that I feel on my feet that is like nails on a chalkboard.
It's so great. I'm so glad you love it.
I do. I love
good.
it. So that's my favorite thing. So,
right.
All right. Hey, before we wrap up, what do you think about staying on for just a minute and doing a Patreon segment? And we will go through some of those Christmas party ideas that we didn't get to in our first go around at the Christmas party.
We should do that.
So for all of you who are Patreon subscribers, stay on the line here because we're going to do a Patreon segment, follow up a little bit more on the Christmas party. For those of you who are not Patreon subscribers, feel free to donate $3 a month and throw some love at the TWIM and be a Patreon subscriber and get some extra content. You can always find TWIM at all the social media sites, Facebook, Instagram. Ariane got me back on the Twin Sisters Instagram, so I will probably be posting pretty regularly now.
She's a better poster than me.
Well, I don't have 4 kids still at home. That's probably why. And then, of course, if you have any questions or comments, you can reach out at contact@thisweekinmormons.com.
Great. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.